When a woman stops explaining herself, the world suddenly pays attention. And when she stops chasing approval and turns her energy inward, she becomes unstoppable. There comes a moment in every woman's life when she finally realizes that her silence is not weakness, it is strategy. Her focus is not selfishness, it is power. And the day she chooses to pull her attention back from the noise, the expectations, the opinions, the demands, something extraordinary happens. The world that once tried to control her begins to shift quietly, subtly, unavoidably. Because a focused woman becomes a force of nature. She stops trying to fix everything around her and starts building everything within her. She stops arguing with people committed to misunderstanding her and starts investing in her growth, her health, her peace, her purpose. And here's the truth many never want to admit. When a woman chooses herself, she breaks the patterns that once held her back. When a woman decides to focus on herself, something extraordinary begins to happen. A subtle but undeniable shift in the balance of power around her. For too long, society has trained women to pour energy into the needs, opinions, and expectations of others, often at the expense of their own clarity, peace, and purpose. But the moment she turns her gaze inward, she begins to reclaim the energy that was quietly siphoned away, and with that energy comes power. This is not just personal growth, this is strategic influence. The hook lies in understanding that every second spent seeking approval, defending choices, or explaining herself to others is time stolen from building the life she truly desires. When she stops chasing validation, she stops feeding the noise and begins to fuel her own potential. Focus is not just about attention, it is about alignment. When a woman aligns her actions with her priorities, she creates a force that cannot be ignored. She stops being reactive and starts being proactive. Every choice she makes, every hour she invests in her development, every boundary she enforces strengthens her trajectory. The world notices this shift, even if it doesn't acknowledge it openly. Relationships recalibrate, opportunities emerge, and respect naturally follows. The hook here is undeniable. When you stop giving your power away, people are compelled to respond to the power you now hold. The influence is quiet, but it is undeniable. Another dimension of focusing on oneself is the mental clarity it provides. When a woman ceases to scatter her attention across endless obligations and distractions, she gains the ability to see patterns, anticipate challenges, and seize opportunities with precision. Her decisions become sharper, her strategies more effective, and her impact more profound. She begins to recognize which situations deserve her energy and which are irrelevant, and this discernment is a form of strength that cannot be taught. It must be cultivated through deliberate focus. Financial independence and personal growth are intertwined with this focus. By dedicating herself to her skills, education, and resources, a woman positions herself in a place of autonomy where she can make choices freely without relying on external validation or approval. The hook here is subtle but powerful. Control over one's resources is control over one's destiny. People begin to treat her differently, not because she demands it, but because her self-focus signals a level of competence, clarity, and resilience that cannot be ignored. As she continues this inward journey, the ripple effects are profound. Confidence grows not from recognition, but from consistency. Influence grows not from noise, but from presence. And momentum grows not from external pressures, but from the accumulation of deliberate, focused action. Her life begins to shift, circumstances bend toward her, and opportunities that once seemed distant now align with her path. Each decision, each boundary, each investment in herself compounds into a force that transforms not only her world, but the perception of those around her, creating an unstoppable trajectory that begins the moment she chooses to focus on herself. Silence is one of the most misunderstood forms of power. In a world that equates speaking up with strength, women are often conditioned to prove themselves, defend their decisions, and justify their existence. Yet true influence does not always come from being loud. It comes from knowing when to speak and, more importantly, when not to. The moment a woman chooses silence as a strategy, she taps into a force far greater than the immediate gratification of argument or attention. Silence becomes a lens through which she observes the world with clarity, a shield that protects her energy, and a tool that magnifies her influence without her needing to demand it. The hook here is compelling. The quieter she becomes, the more the world listens, not because she speaks louder, but because she demonstrates control over herself and over situations that once controlled her. When a woman stops reacting to provocation, manipulation, or the expectations of others, she begins to reclaim the narrative of her life. People are accustomed to her engagement, to her explanations, to her attempts to validate their perspectives. Withdrawing from this cycle creates disruption. It forces others to reconsider how they interact with her, how they value her presence, and how they respond to her decisions. Strategic silence transforms from a personal choice into a social lever, subtly shifting the balance of power in every interaction. The hook is subtle yet undeniable. Silence is not empty. It is a space of potential that commands respect and attention. Furthermore, silence allows for deep reflection and strategic thinking. When a woman steps back from the constant noise of commentary, comparison, and judgment, she creates mental space to evaluate opportunities, assess risks, and prioritize what truly matters. In this quiet space, she discovers patterns that are invisible in the chaos of constant engagement. She begins to act with precision rather than reaction, making decisions that carry weight because they are deliberate, not impulsive. The power of silence is amplified when paired with focus because it becomes the foundation upon which clarity, resilience, and influence are built. Silence also serves as a filter, separating what deserves energy from what does not. In the modern world, countless demands, opinions, and distractions compete for attention. By choosing silence, a woman cultivates discernment, understanding which battles are worth fighting and which are strategically irrelevant. This selectivity becomes a form of strength. She no longer participates in conflicts that diminish her, and instead channels her energy toward endeavors that elevate her growth, her security, and her peace. As this practice continues, the effects ripple outward. People begin to notice the shift, respect deepens, and influence grows organically. Silence communicates confidence, boundaries, and self-respect in ways words often cannot. It becomes a strategic advantage, creating a presence that is compelling, magnetic, and commanding. Those who once sought to undermine her now recognize the power inherent in her restraint. The hook is undeniable. When she remains silent while focused, she not only protects her energy but transforms her presence into an unstoppable force that shapes outcomes around her. Self-discipline and inner growth are the foundations upon which a woman builds true influence and lasting success. In a world that often demands immediate reactions, constant validation, and endless multitasking, the ability to focus, prioritize, and invest in oneself becomes a revolutionary act. When a woman commits to personal development, she is no longer at the mercy of external circumstances or the opinions of others. Her time, energy, and attention become her most valuable assets, and the deliberate cultivation of these assets translates into power that cannot be borrowed or taken. The hook is clear. Self-discipline is not a restriction. It is freedom, a freedom that allows her to shape her life according to her vision rather than reacting to the chaos around her. Inner growth is equally essential. By dedicating herself to emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and resilience, a woman gains the ability to navigate challenges with composure and clarity. She learns to anticipate obstacles, respond rather than react, and maintain focus even when the world tries to distract her. This growth creates a magnetic presence, one that commands respect and alters how others perceive and interact with her. The subtle yet profound effect is that opportunities begin to align with her trajectory, not because she chases them, but because she has built the capacity to recognize, seize, and maximize them. The hook here is that personal evolution is not just internal, it ripples outward, reshaping circumstances, relationships, and outcomes in ways that appear almost effortless to observers. Economic independence and skill mastery are vital extensions of self-discipline. When a woman invests in her knowledge, career, or entrepreneurial pursuits, she gains leverage that is difficult for anyone else to diminish. Financial stability provides autonomy, security, and the freedom to make decisions aligned with her priorities rather than obligations imposed by others. Mastery of skills, whether intellectual, professional, or creative, enhances her influence and positions her as a resource that others naturally rely upon and respect. The strategic hook is that self-reliance amplifies power. The more she invests in herself, the less dependent she becomes, and the more her environment begins to adjust to her presence rather than the other way around. Consistency is the secret multiplier of these efforts. Discipline, when applied daily, compounds over time. The small decisions to prioritize rest, learning, growth, and health accumulate into a momentum that transforms life circumstances. Inner growth ensures that each step taken is intentional and meaningful, while self-discipline guarantees that progress is sustained regardless of external noise or interference. The hook is in the compounding effect over weeks, months, and years. What might begin as quiet investment in oneself becomes an undeniable force that shapes outcomes, opportunities, and respect. Ultimately, self-discipline and inner growth create a foundation that is unshakable. They allow a woman to navigate challenges with confidence, make decisions with clarity, and act with precision. The energy she invests in herself does not vanish. It multiplies, producing results that extend far beyond her immediate efforts. People begin to notice the transformation, circumstances begin to bend toward her advantage, and influence becomes a natural byproduct of the life she is intentionally creating.